Welcome to the world of science fiction stories, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe my channel. Enjoy the listening. The blizzard intensified as Dr. Vivian Tanner led her archaeological team across the Antarctic ice shelf. Their thermal imaging had detected an anomalous structure beneath 200 meters of ice, something perfectly geometric where nothing man-made should exist. "Temperatures dropping again," shouted Ronaldo, her assistant, voice barely audible over the howling wind. "We should turn back." Vivian checked her wrist device, the coordinates blinking insistently. "We're almost there, just another 100 meters." Their expedition had begun 3 months ago after satellite imagery revealed an unusual heat signature beneath the ice. The scientific community had dismissed it as volcanic activity, but Vivian recognized patterns similar to those found at other ancient sites. She'd studied sites that defied conventional archaeological dating methods. When they reached the exact coordinates, Vivian deployed the ground-penetrating radar. The display illuminated her face in the growing darkness, revealing a perfect sphere buried deep in the ice. "That's no natural formation," whispered Emiko, their geologist. "And it's giving off energy readings unlike anything I've ever seen." They established a preliminary base camp, and within days, specialized drilling equipment arrived. As they bored through the ancient ice, Vivian's excitement grew. This discovery could rewrite human history, evidence of advanced civilization predating all known records. On the fifth day of drilling, they reached it, a metallic sphere approximately 3 meters in diameter. Its surface unmarred by time or pressure despite being buried for what carbon dating would later suggest was over 30,000 years. "It's warm to the touch," Vivian noted in her recorder, gloved fingers brushing against the strange metal. "Material composition unknown, but it appears to be responding to our presence." Without warning, lines of blue light appeared across the sphere's surface, forming intricate patterns that pulsed with increasing intensity. The team stepped back in alarm as the sphere began to hum. "Everyone out," ordered Vivian, but it was too late. The sphere released a burst of energy that knocked them all backward. When they regained their senses, they found the sphere had opened, revealing a hollow interior filled with technology beyond human understanding. "Professor Tanner, look at this," called Ronaldo, pointing to what appeared to be a console with symbols that glowed in response to their proximity. Vivian approached cautiously. The symbols seemed vaguely familiar, similar to petroglyphs she'd studied in caves across multiple continents, always dismissed as coincidental similarities in primitive art. Now she understood they were anything but primitive. When her hand hovered over the console, the symbols rearranged themselves, forming new patterns that somehow she could understand. Not words exactly, but concepts transmitted directly to her mind. "It's a beacon," she whispered. "We've just activated an interstellar beacon." Within hours, observatories around the world detected an unusual signal emanating from Antarctica, a signal that propagated at speeds that defied physics, heading outward into deep space. Before global authorities could react, the signal reached its destination. Director Thomas Harrison of the International Space Observation Network stared at the screens in disbelief. Something massive had appeared near Jupiter's orbit, decelerating rapidly. "Get me the Secretary General," he ordered, voice tight with controlled panic. "And someone find Dr. Tanner. Her discovery just received an answer." In low Earth orbit, astronaut Commander Layla Patel observed the anomaly through the space station's telescope. "Houston, are you seeing this? The object is changing course. It's heading directly toward Earth." As governments worldwide scrambled to respond, Dr. Vivian Tanner was flown from Antarctica to the United Nations emergency session in New York. Still wearing her expedition gear, she addressed the assembled world leaders. "What we activated was not just a beacon," she explained, projecting images of the sphere and its contents. "It contains a complete historical record, evidence that Earth was visited 30,000 years ago by beings from another world." The hall erupted in chaos until the Secretary General restored order. "Dr. Tanner, are you suggesting the object approaching Earth is returning visitors?" "I believe so," she replied. "And based on the information we've been able to translate, they didn't just visit. They intervened in human development during the last ice age, possibly saving our species from extinction." Satellite imagery of the approaching vessel appeared on the main screen, revealing a ship of impossible proportions, its design echoing the patterns found on the sphere. The beacon was left as a milestone marker, Vivian continued. It was programmed to activate when humanity reached a certain technological threshold. By finding and activating it, we've announced we're ready for the next phase. Next phase of what? Demanded the Russian representative. Before Vivian could respond, communication systems worldwide activated simultaneously. On every screen, a figure appeared humanoid but clearly not human, with iridescent skin and eyes that reflected light like prisms. People of Earth, the figure spoke, its voice translated into all languages simultaneously. I am Navigator Helios of the Lumerian Collective. We have returned as promised to witness your progress. In the stunned silence that followed, Vivian recognized the truth that would soon shake humanity's understanding of itself to the core. We were never alone. We were never entirely human. And our creators had returned to see what we had become. Colonel Jackson Pierce had spent 20 years preparing for alien contact. As head of the Global Defense Initiative's First Contact Division, he had run countless simulations, developed protocols, and trained specialized teams for the eventuality. But now that it was happening, all those preparations seemed woefully inadequate. Status report, he demanded, striding into the underground command center beneath the Swiss Alps, a facility built specifically for this scenario. The Lumerian vessel has established stable orbit at 50,000 kilometers, reported Lieutenant Francois Dubois, her fingers flying across holographic displays. They've made no aggressive movements but have deployed smaller craft that appear to be scanning the planet. Pierce studied the main screen showing the massive alien ship. Unlike the sleek, aerodynamic designs of science fiction, the Lumerian vessel resembled a complex crystalline structure, with no obvious front or back. Parts of it seemed to phase in and out of visibility, suggesting technology that manipulated matter at a fundamental level. And their communication, he asked. Limited to the initial broadcast. They've acknowledged our responses but requested to speak with the keeper of the beacon, Dubois replied. Dr. Tanner, Pierce nodded. Where is she now? En route here, sir. ETA 30 minutes. The colonel turned to Dr. Hiroshi Nakamura, the team's xenobiologist. Your assessment. Dr. Nakamura adjusted his glasses. Based on Navigator Helios' appearance and what we've extracted from the Antarctic sphere, the Lumerians are humanoid but with significant biological differences. Their cellular structure appears to incorporate crystalline components, possibly allowing for extended lifespans and resistance to radiation. Most intriguing is the genetic similarity to certain human haplogroups. Similarity, Pierce questioned. Yes, some of the information from the sphere suggests that the Lumerians may have contributed to human evolution during their previous visit. Before Pierce could respond, alarms blared across the command center. Multiple energy signatures detected worldwide, shouted the sensor operator. Pattern matches the Antarctic sphere. On the global map, dozens of points illuminated across every continent, mainly in remote regions, but some dangerously close to populated areas. In the Gobi Desert, the Amazon rainforest, beneath the Mediterranean Sea, deep in the Congo, ancient technology was activating after millennia of dormancy. It's a network, breathed Dr. Nakamura. The sphere was just one node. Dr. Vivian Tanner arrived amid the crisis, escorted by security personnel. She looked exhausted, but her eyes blazed with excitement. Dr. Tanner, Pierce greeted her tersely. Care to explain why alien technology is suddenly activating all over our planet? Vivian studied the map. The sphere contained historical records but also a kind of activation key. By interfacing with it, we triggered the entire network. She turned to Pierce. Colonel, these sites aren't weapons. They're libraries, observatories, research stations. The Lumerians built them to monitor Earth's development after they left. Left some of their people behind, you mean? Interjected Dr. Nakamura, showing her genetic comparison charts. Vivian nodded. That's my theory. The early Lumerian explorers realized humanity was struggling to survive the Ice Age. They intervened subtly at first, teaching skills, providing tools. But eventually they took more dramatic steps. Genetic engineering, Pierce said flatly. More like genetic assistance, Vivian corrected. The records suggest they enhanced existing human traits, intelligence, adaptability, immune response. They didn't replace human DNA, they optimized it. An aide rushed in with an urgent report. Sir, we're receiving reports of unusual phenomena near the activation sites. Individuals in those regions are experiencing changes. Videos appeared on the screens showing people near the activated sites exhibiting extraordinary abilities, enhanced strength, accelerated healing, and in some cases, direct interaction with Lumerian technology. The dormant genetic markers, whispered Dr. Nakamura. They're being activated by proximity to the Lumerian technology. Outside the command center, world governments teetered on the edge of panic. Military forces worldwide mobilized, stock markets crashed, and religious leaders issued conflicting interpretations of these events. Some claimed the Lumerians were angels, others demons. Some saw them as humanity's salvation, others as conquerors. Colonel Pierce made a decision. Prepare the contact team. Dr. Tanner, you'll lead the scientific contingent. I'll handle military protocol. You're suggesting we go up there? Vivian asked, pointing at the screen showing the massive alien ship. No, Pierce replied. They're coming down. The Lumerians have requested landing clearance at the Antarctic site. They want to meet where it all began 30,000 years ago. 3 days later, Vivian stood beside Colonel Pierce on the Antarctic ice shelf, now transformed into a high-security landing zone. Global leaders waited tensely in a heated facility nearby, while millions watched the livestream around the world. A section of the Lumerian ship detached, descending through Earth's atmosphere without any visible propulsion system. It landed silently on the ice, its crystalline surface refracting the pale Antarctic sunlight in prismatic patterns. Remember the protocol, Pierce murmured to Vivian as a seam appeared in the craft's surface. No sudden movements, maintain eye contact but don't stare and let them speak first. The opening widened, revealing 3 figures. Navigator Helios stepped forward, flanked by 2 companions. In person, the Lumerians were both more and less alien than they had appeared on screens. Tall and graceful, with skin that seemed to subtly shift in color and texture, they moved with deliberate precision that suggested a gravity difference from their home world. Dr. Vivian Tanner, Helios spoke, the words forming in perfect English though his mouth movements didn't quite sync with the sounds. You have awakened our legacy sooner than expected. Sooner, Vivian asked, momentarily forgetting protocol. We calculated humanity would require another 5 centuries to discover and activate the network. Your accelerated development is remarkable. Colonel Pierce stepped forward. On behalf of Earth's nations, we welcome you and seek peaceful dialogue. Helios regarded him with iridescent eyes. Peace has always been our intention, Colonel Pierce. We are scientists and explorers, not conquerors. Then explain the activation of hidden technology across our planet without our consent, Pierce challenged. One of Helios' companions moved forward, more slender, with skin tones shifting through blues and greens. I am Observer Lyra. The network awakens not by our command but as a response to Earth's changing conditions. What you call climate change has altered magnetic fields and atmospheric composition, triggering our monitoring systems. And the people experiencing genetic changes? Asked Vivian. Helios' expression shifted in a way that might have been concern. An unexpected development. The genetic modifications made to your ancestors were designed to activate gradually over thousands of generations. Environmental factors have accelerated the process. What does that mean for those affected? Pierce demanded. It means, said the third Lumerian, stepping forward, that evolution has been compressed. I am geneticist Orion. What should have occurred over millennia is happening in days. The affected individuals are becoming what humanity was always meant to become. And what is that exactly? Vivian asked. Orion's eyes fixed on hers with unsettling intensity. Our successors. In the silence that followed, the implications of that single word hung in the frigid air. The Lumerians hadn't returned merely to observe. They had returned to witness the next phase of their grand experiment, an experiment in which all of humanity were unwitting participants. And as the news spread globally, humans everywhere wondered, were we the creators of our civilization, or had we been created for a purpose we were only now beginning to understand? As dawn broke over the Antarctic research base, tensions between human authorities and the Lumerian delegation had reached a critical point. Inside the hastily assembled diplomatic chamber, heated debates continued through the night. You had no right to interfere with our species' natural development, argued UN Secretary-General Okonkwo, her voice steady despite her exhaustion. Regardless of your intentions. Geneticist Orion remained calm, his iridescent skin shifting through subtle patterns that seemed to reflect his thoughts. Without our intervention, your species would have perished during the climate catastrophe 30,000 years ago. Homo sapiens population had dwindled to fewer than 10,000 individuals worldwide. Dr. Vivian Tanner leaned forward, intrigued despite her misgivings. The genetic bottleneck, we've observed it in mitochondrial DNA studies, but we attributed it to natural selection pressures. The pressures were natural, confirmed observer Lyra. Your response to them was enhanced. Colonel Pierce slammed his palm against the table. Enhanced how exactly? What did you do to us? Navigator Helios activated a holographic display showing a double helix structure that slowly rotated above the table. We identified 27 gene sequences that could be optimized without disrupting your species' core identity. Enhanced immune response, improved cognitive flexibility, faster adaptation to environmental changes. Dr. Nakamura studied the display intently. These sequences, they match what we've identified as the most significant evolutionary leaps in human development, the genetic foundations for abstract thought, complex language, advanced tool use. Precisely, said Orion, we accelerated processes already occurring naturally. The potential was within you, we simply removed barriers. While the discussion continued at the Antarctic base, the situation worldwide grew increasingly complex. Reports flooded in from all activation sites. Over 100 people now exhibited dramatic genetic changes. A farmer in Brazil could communicate with plants, sensing their needs and accelerating their growth. A schoolteacher in Mongolia could perceive electromagnetic fields. A child in Namibia dreamed in mathematical equations that, when implemented, created new forms of clean energy. And most significantly, these changes were spreading. Those with activated genes could somehow trigger dormant sequences in others through prolonged contact. It wasn't contagious like a disease, but it was transmissible, a directed evolution spreading person to person. Governments scrambled to respond. Some quarantined affected individuals, while others sought to weaponize their abilities. Religious groups declared it either divine blessing or demonic possession. Scientists worked frantically to understand the mechanism behind the changes. At a secure medical facility in Geneva, Dr. Alina Ruiz examined the latest test results from affected individuals. The changes aren't random, she explained to the International Scientific Committee. They appear tailored to each person's existing genetic predispositions and environmental conditions. It's as if the Lumerian enhancements were designed to activate differently depending on what each population needed most, added her colleague, Dr. Wei Zhou. Desert populations show enhanced water conservation abilities. Those from historically cold regions develop improved thermoregulation. Back in Antarctica, Vivian confronted the Lumerians with this information. Did you design these changes to manifest differently across populations? Of course, Orion replied. Adaptation is specific to environment. What would benefit those in tropical regions would harm those in Arctic ones. But why? Pressed Vivian. Why help humans 30,000 years ago only to disappear until now? Why not stay and guide our development directly? Navigator Helios exchanged glances with his companions before answering. Because direct intervention has never produced optimal results, species must find their own path. There's more to it than that, Colonel Pierce interjected. You're not telling us everything. After a long silence, observer Lyra stepped forward. Your perception is accurate, Colonel. The complete truth is more complex. She activated another holographic display showing a galactic map. The Lumerian collective once spanned hundreds of systems. We were not the first spacefaring civilization in this galaxy, nor the most advanced. You encountered other species, asked Secretary General Okonkwo. Many, some peaceful, others not. Some that had destroyed themselves through unrestrained technological advancement without corresponding ethical evolution, Lyra explained. 12,000 years after we visited Earth, our homeworld was attacked by a species we had attempted to help, one that took our technology and turned it against us. The revelation stunned the human representatives. Our civilization nearly collapsed, continued Helios. It has taken us 18,000 years to recover sufficiently to return here. In that time, we learned a crucial lesson. Evolutionary assistance must be carefully calibrated. Too much help creates dependency. Too little fails to overcome critical challenges. And the network of sites you built on Earth, asked Vivian. Monitoring stations, said Orion, designed to track human development and activate the genetic enhancements at appropriate intervals. Dr. Nakamura had been analyzing data on his tablet throughout the conversation. He looked up suddenly. These activation sites correspond almost perfectly with centers of major civilizational development throughout human history: Mesopotamia, the Indus Valley, Yellow River Basin, Mesoamerica. Yes, confirmed Helios. When populations reached critical mass near a monitoring station, subtle activation would occur, just enough to spark innovation without disrupting natural development. The dawn of agriculture, suggested Vivian. Metallurgy, added Nakamura's. Mathematics, astronomy, written language, Orion nodded. All inherent human capacities but activated when conditions were optimal. Colonel Pierce's expression hardened. So human history, our entire civilization, has been one long experiment. Partnership, corrected Lyra. We provided tools, you built wonders we could never have imagined. Before further discussion could continue, an urgent communication interrupted them. On screens worldwide, the image appeared of a teenage girl in rural India who had been among the first to exhibit enhanced abilities. She stood surrounded by formerly withered crops now flourishing impossibly. More remarkably, her eyes had changed, now containing the same prismatic quality as the Lumerians. It's happening faster than we anticipated, Orion said, genuine concern in his voice. The environmental triggers have accelerated the process exponentially. What process? Demanded Secretary General Okonkwo. Navigator Helios faced the human representatives solemnly. Convergent evolution. The dormant genetic potential we seeded 30,000 years ago is manifesting toward its intended outcome. Some humans are becoming more like us, or rather, becoming what both our species were always meant to be. Implications stunned everyone present. This wasn't merely about enhanced humans, it was about the emergence of something new, a bridge between species. How many will be affected? Asked Colonel Pierce. Based on current progression rates, approximately 1.2% of the global population carries sufficiently concentrated marker genes to experience full transformation, calculated Orion. Another 27% may develop partial enhancements. Over 2 billion people, whispered Dr. Nakamura. As the meeting adjourned for representatives to consult with their governments, Vivian approached the Lumerians privately. There's something I need to know, she said. The sphere I found, was it positioned deliberately for me to discover? Observer Lyra studied her with those unsettling prismatic eyes. Your genetic profile has been tracked since birth, Dr. Tanner. You are a 13th-generation descendant of one of our original research teams, what you might call a star child. Your intuitive understanding of ancient sites, your dreams of patterns you couldn't possibly have seen, these were not coincidences. Vivian felt the ground seem to shift beneath her feet as her identity reconstructed itself around this revelation. And now, what happens to Earth now? Navigator Helios's expression softened. That remains to be written, Dr. Tanner. Our purpose was never to control humanity's destiny, merely to ensure you survive to have one. What comes next depends on choices made by both our peoples and those who will soon bridge the gap between us. As Vivian processed this information, urgent reports arrived from monitoring stations worldwide. The activation was accelerating, spreading outward from the original sites like ripples in a pond. And somewhere in those ripples, humanity's future was taking shape. A future neither wholly human nor entirely alien, but something unprecedented in galactic history. The question remained, would this new evolution unite humanity in common purpose, or divide it irrevocably between those who would embrace transformation and those who would resist it at any cost?